Hello and welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. My name is Colleta Macharia and I'm a life coach and author of the book, How to Design Your Career Game Plan. Now, in the last 7 episodes, we have been having conversations around the theme of starting, and we've also looked at the barriers to starting and some of the things that would be inspiring for us, for example, identity and having a vision. Now, today, in this episode, we are going to land the plane. And I start by telling you a story of this farmer who lost his prized watch while he was working in his barn. And this is a watch that had great sentimental value for him. And so he took the time to look for it. And he looked. And at some point, he just lost hope of finding the watch, and he gave up the search. But then he noticed that there were children playing close to the barn, and he enlisted their help in looking for this watch. So the children came and went inside the barn and started looking for the watch, and they took so much time looking until finally they gave up when they realized that they weren't finding the watch. And so the farmer just resigned himself to losing this watch, and the children left, and he hung around for a while. And while he was there, one of the children came back and he said, "Hey, can I go back inside and look for this watch once again?" The farmer didn't think it was necessary, but then he just allowed the boy to go back into the barn and look for the watch. So the boy went in there, and after a while he came back to the farmer, and lo and behold, he was holding the watch in his hand. And the farmer was surprised, pleasantly so, and he asked the boy, "How did you do that? How did you find it after we had spent so much time looking for the watch and we didn't find it?" And this is what the boy said. "I just went into the barn and I sat somewhere very quietly and listened. And when I heard the tick-tock sound of the watch, I just followed the sound and went and retrieved the watch where it has been sitting all this time." Wow, what a vivid demonstration of the power of silence. Being silent and taking time to reflect can be beneficial for us. And in fact, we are told that it's even helpful for the growth of our brain. In the last episode, I talked about the distractions that come at us from within and without. And just being silent and reflecting can help us to refocus our attention on to the task at hand. When we appreciate and understand how to be silent and to listen and to reflect, we can ask ourselves important questions and even help ourselves to draw out the wise counsel that is like water in the deep well of the soul. And that's exactly what it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20 and verse 5. "Wise counsel in the heart of a man is like water in a deep well, but a man of understanding draws it out." There are some questions that I like to ask myself, in my moments of silence every now and again, and I find them really important to reflect upon. And the first question that I find really important to ask myself is, where am I? Now, as I'm recording this episode, we are right in the middle of the month of March, and I know that many of us took the time in the beginning of the year to come up with goals, set goals for things that we want to achieve. Some of us made New Year resolutions, and some of us even took the time to design and work on our vision boards. And so at this time of year, it's important to just take some time and ask ourselves, where am I in relation to where I had planned to be by this time? And locating ourselves helps us to look at things that we probably need to, course correct or to enhance, or if they are within our control, then we can work on them and ensure that we get on track if we had found ourselves going off track. And there are times that really we are not in control of circumstances or things that happen that may derail us. And during such moments, we reflect to just acknowledge that, yes, this is where I am, and make peace with it, and just continue doing what we know best how to do to head towards our vision. So where am I is a beautiful question to ask ourselves, just to ensure that we are going where we are looking, and we are looking where we are going, which is where we intended to be in the first place. The second question that I like to ask myself is, what am I doing? There is one leader that I respect and look up to, and his name is Dave Cook. And he says that when he finds himself cleaning the house or cleaning his spaces and tidying up, then he knows that it means he is stressed. And it's interesting that asking ourselves what we are doing can lead us to understand why we are doing it, or if there is something that we are dealing with that we need to pay attention to. And so if you find yourself maybe chewing at your bottom lip, or grinding your teeth, or pulling your hair, or just tapping aimlessly or mindlessly, it's probably time to ask yourself, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? Is there something I need to be paying attention to? The third question, why am I talking? This is a tip that I got, I don't remember exactly where, but I have found it very, very helpful, especially when I am preparing, say, to speak somewhere, or even when I'm preparing this podcast. And when I'm preparing for a training, it helps me to ask, why am I talking, so that I can ensure that the core reason, the core message does not get forgotten, and that I do not keep waffling and rambling on and on without remembering and putting to mind exactly what the specific purpose and what the general purpose of my speech is. Also, there's a time to speak and a time to be silent. And it's interesting to note that the words silent and listen have the same letters, just arranged differently. And so those two belong together. And it's important for us to pay attention to those moments when we just need to be silent and listen. So why am I talking is an important question to ask. The fourth question is, who do you think you are? Interesting, right? If you've ever been asked this question, I believe that there was probably a tinge, or maybe even a lot of sarcasm on the part of the person who asked you that question. Because many times when people ask that question, it's not because they want to hear the answer, but probably to put us in our place, so to speak. And I would like to invite you to ask yourself that question, who do you think you are? And really be curious enough to just tease it out and to see what you think of yourself, or who you think you are. Because the truth is that we all have a self-concept. And yet, one of the things that we find difficult to do is really to engage with ourselves and to think about ourselves. There have been times when people have contacted me and said, you know what, I would like you to coach me so that I can prepare for this interview that I've been invited to. And one of the questions that freaks many people out is, tell us about yourself. And so my take is that the sooner we get comfortable asking ourselves this question, the easier it will be for us to embrace a healthy self-concept. That is how we view ourselves, the interests that we have, the values that we have, and just how we put ourselves out there. The fifth question is simply, when? When is about appreciating and understanding that there are seasons in life, and also appreciating that there are times to seize the day, to seize the moment, and do good and spread love. In the book of Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 15 and 16, we are told, be very careful how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best of every moment because the days are evil. So between the moment we took our first breath as newborns and the moment we take our last breath, there are numerous opportunities for us to do good, to spread love, and to make an impact in our world. And this brings me to the last question. How am I being salt and light? Salt adds flavor, it preserves, and it has healing properties. And you and I know that this world could do with a bit of flavor, a bit of healing, and light, for us to shine the light and make the world a better place. Claude Levi-Strauss, who was a French anthropologist, said that the wise man doesn't give the right answers, but he poses the right questions. What questions are you posing to yourself? I wish you a lovely week full of quiet, reflective moments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. The Work in Progress podcast is brought to you by Cogent Afrique. Visit www.cogentafrique.com to check out learning and development opportunities for you, your team, organization, and family.